why gay men struggle with sexual boundaries. Hey guys, Michael Pizzullo here, gay therapist in West Hollywood. So today I want to talk to you about why gay men sometimes struggle with navigating, identifying, and setting boundaries when it comes to sex and hookups. And I say all of this to give you understanding, not to make anyone feel like they're doing anything wrong, but to help you learn more about yourself and hopefully help you develop tools for the future. So just to give some context, I think the first factor that's so critical to think about is that gay men were not taught how to set sexual boundaries. If you think about it, straight boys grow up in a world where they are really coached a lot about how to be respectful of women, how to, not go too far, get consent, so on and so forth, right? We don't get any of that. We get nothing, right? And then we're kind of just dumped into the gay community at some point, and we kind of just sort of fumble through everything and have to figure it out. We don't have the same process of being taught what it looks like to set a boundary, to get consent, to ask for this, to ask for that. We just kind of have to get thrown into the deep end, particularly now with apps like Grindr and whatnot. Oftentimes, that's the first experience gay men are having these days. So just to give some context, that's that we really weren't taught how to do this. So it makes sense that it can be a little bit difficult when we're presented with the task. Then the second thing I would say is really critical to think about is our culture being very hypersexual. And again, not in a bad way, but I think what's interesting is that gay men often exist in a culture where one of the biggest priorities is getting sex, right? Every event is about hookups and finding guys and getting as much action as you can. And don't get me wrong, I think all that can truly be great, celebrate your life and have a good time. But this idea of turning sex down, saying no, slowing things down is really antithetical to a lot of the messaging that we're getting about, have as much sex as possible. So I think a lot of gay men feel a little bit confused, well, how would I set a boundary or, turn someone down if I'm being told that I should grab every opportunity I can get for sex and, have as much as I possibly can. So I think that sets up a construct that could be confusing for gay men to navigate as well. By the way, before I get too far into it, if you want to work with me directly as a coach or as a therapist, I'm going to put my booking link below. And I also am doing a new Dating Without Scarcity coaching program specifically for gay men to navigate relationships and dating and find an ideal partner for themselves. So I'll link that below. The third thing is that I think that boundaries can actually make gay men feel like they're losing something. And what I mean by this is a few different things. So I think a lot of gay men attach so much meaning to sex. One being that sex is one of the ways that they feel like they can connect in the gay community. They might not know how to make friends. They might not know how to, feel confident or know what to do in the straight community or the world at large. But in the gay community, they've learned that one surefire pathway to get connection and validation is through sex, it's through hookups, right? And so if you start setting boundaries and taking that out of the equation, it's not just that you're losing the sexual interaction, you're also losing all those other things. And I think it's not just a fear of missing out on, oh, I won't get to have, one good experience, or, a fear of having an awkward moment where I turn someone down or we start fooling around and then I change my mind and I end it and it's awkward. But really about, if I do that, I'm also losing this moment of validation that I'm seeking. And I'm also losing my opportunity to feel connected to other people or to other gay men. And if I don't have these moments, then what? So I think that setting boundaries can really feel like a loss for so many gay men. And I think that's why we need to think about it more in terms of the bigger paradigms and the bigger emotional pulls that we're experiencing that make it difficult for us to set these types of boundaries. You'll also notice too how attachment styles can really influence how someone communicates boundaries. So for example, someone who's more anxiously attached will often be over accommodating or set a boundary and then take it back, or kind of set a boundary, but it's very shaky. It's kind of yes, sort of, maybe, I'm not sure. And they're very wishy-washy about it. And then people who are more avoidant attached often have boundaries that are very, very rigid. Which it could be a good thing, they're very clear of when it's a yes or a no. However, they often avoid communication and avoid conflict. So that may lead them to go along with something and not say that they're uncomfortable because they are avoidant of communication. So it can kind of go both ways with them, but you want to think about the way I communicate my boundaries that may indicate some information about my attachment style that might be also interesting to look at. And overall, you want to think of all of these things as information. They're all different ways to learn about yourself, to gather data points, and to figure out who you are, rather than thinking about what's wrong with me, thinking about it's another piece of the puzzle, it's another clue, it's another way I can understand myself. I think that's the best framing you really want to think about. And then when it comes down to reframing boundaries, if you're interested in doing that, you're going to want to think about a couple things, which is, how can I find the courage to use my voice and to say my piece and to navigate an awkward moment, right? And the other thing too is you want to reframe what a boundary means to you, because I think a lot of people think that a boundary is punishing of someone else, it's disrespectful, it's insulting, or it's, awkward or uncomfortable, rather than thinking of a boundary as a, shut door that's steel will never open again. You want to think about it more in terms of pacing. The boundaries are about going at a pace that's comfortable for you and kind of slowing things down, stopping, starting. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing. And really it's about communicating that to someone else in a way that they understand where you are. And also too, I like to say that give people a little bit more of the benefit of the doubt. I think you might be surprised that most people want to know what your boundaries are. They don't want to do anything that's going to make you uncomfortable, right? So even if you sense some awkwardness or they feel a little bit insulted in the moment or kind of kills the vibe, you're also doing them a service because you're giving them an opportunity to meet you where you're at and to respect you and to, feel good about what they're doing as well too. So you both walk away feeling better about the scenario. So I will leave it there. As always, thank you so much for watching my channel. If you want more, tips and information for gay men about mental health, relationships, please subscribe to my channel, like this video, share it with your friends. I really appreciate it. And as always, if you want to work with me directly as a therapist or as a coach, I will put my booking link in the description. Thank you guys for watching again, and I'll see you in the next one.